we are here with the author Joey Goebel, who's come over from Kentucky to Germany to tour with his new book. We are in Güthersloh right now and have the pleasure to talk to him for a bit. So maybe you want to introduce yourself to our readers, listeners.
First of all, I really appreciate you all seeking me out and showing interest in my career, and this is very good for my self-esteem. I don't get this sort of treatment back in America. So thank you very much. Yes, I'm a novelist, and for whatever reason, my novels have found an audience in the German domain, something of which I am quite proud, and that has brought me over to Switzerland and Germany for a little book tour, promoting my most recent work, interrelated collection of short stories. English title is I Know It's Going to Happen for You Someday.
Exactly. Here in Germany we know it as Irgendwann wird alles gut.
Irgendwann wird es gut, ja.
Irgendwann wird es gut, entschuldige, genau. Und and
we are huge fans of your work. We loved it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We were introduced to it by the Diogenes Verlag, so that was in Frankfurt, I think. We first heard of it, and then we started inhaling all of your books at once, to be honest. So we got quite into it very fast. And to start off the proper interview, we just wanted to start with something you did in Vincent. The German title is Vincent. Mm-hmm. You always introduce your characters with 3 different questions
like their 3 favorite
exactly
thing, like their favorite movie,
series,
favorite TV show, and favorite band.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's our first question to you.
Oh, you want to know mine?
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh God, what I love this question. Well, if you were paying attention during sound check, you know that my favorite musician is Morrissey. He's
Great.
just the lyrics just connect with me. So what kind of rock star writes a lyric like I am the son and heir of a shyness that is criminally vulgar? You know, what kind of rock star sings about how shy he is? To me, that is punk rock. So Morrissey would be my favorite musician. My favorite movie, there's one I always go back to, and I don't know if you all will be familiar with it, but it's Cool Hand Luke. Paul Newman, 1967, and it's just about this rebellious guy who commits a crime, ends up in a chain gang, and just shakes up the system in this prison and this chain gang. If you know One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, it's the exact same premise.
Okay.
And that would leave a television show. That one's quite easy as well. I absolutely adore Mad Men. Yeah. I mean, you're talking to a heterosexual man. Sometimes I find myself aroused by the face of John Hamm, just with his sheer talent. I mean, it just overwhelms me. That, to be serious, that character, Don Draper, is the most complex character in all of television history, I dare say. And I always say that is the show that turned television into literature. Every episode is like a little literary short story. So those would be my 3 favorites.
Very nice. Favorite things. Next question. You were the lead singer of the quite successful punk band The Mullets. When did you decide to give writing a shot?
Well, what happened with the Mullets, we had been together for 5 years, and, you know, in teenage years, that's a minor eternity, and we did play a lot of shows. We toured a little bit throughout the Midwest, but what I quickly realized was the lifestyle of a musician was not for me. I hinted at my own shyness earlier with the Morrissey quote. I'm an introvert, it's so strange to me that I felt so compelled to be an entertainer when I'm actually quite shy, and it's strange to me I'm doing a book tour when I grew up with this terrible phobia of reading aloud. If the teacher called on me to read aloud, that was the absolute worst thing that could happen. And yet here I am. So what I'm getting at, though, is in order to succeed in music, you got to tour. I mean, there's just no getting around it. And with the touring, to survive, you have to medicate yourself. And the hours are strange. You're in a different city. That is not for me. I love staying home. I'm a homebody. Well, I like to stay home with my books and my records. Thank you, by the way. And so it was a lifestyle thing, and so that I was an English major at the time, and I realized I can still entertain people without ever actually leaving the house. And so I view my novels as just an extension of what I did on the stage with my music. It's just a different form of entertainment.
Oh yeah, you absolutely do. So do you maybe grab a piece of this shyness you're talking about? In one of your books, I Know It's Going to Happen for You Someday, you've got one of your short stories about this guy, Luke Burke, who is aspiring to become more famous, but it's not about fame. It's more about bringing what he feels to stage and just to show the world what he's thinking through his music. Now, through what you were saying before, how much autobiographical stuff can we find in your books? Because Luke Burke seems to be just a bit of you, as what you're telling us right now.
I mean, you're kind enough to show interest in me, and so I won't, as the Americans say, beat around the bush. I am Luke Burke. That's the most thinly veiled fictional version of myself ever, and you can find fictional versions of myself in pretty much every book. But that story in particular, yes, it is about the Mullets.
Yeah,
yes,
we found the parallels while reading about you and reading the book.
We thought the question in our group and thought it maybe would be completely autobiographical for you.
Yeah,
it has the shininess of autobiographical. It has the emotionless deepness we can think of. You want to broad to the audience.
And there's not just that story. You can find different facets of my personality throughout all 10 stories. But in that one, I most closely identify with the teenage punk rocker who desperately wants to connect with people. I'm sure you notice every story is about a lonely person who is trying to find a way to connect with people. And so in Luke's case, he thinks, well, just sitting and talking with people does not work for me. So maybe if I have a microphone and they have to listen to me, maybe that would work. And so in my teen years, I found solace in that approach.
In the interview with Benedict Wells included in your last book, you claimed that with Trump's presidency, satire found its dead end because there is no sense in satire when reality is even more absurd than anything you could imagine. Quote. Yes. Mm-hmm. How long, in your opinion, will it take for the US or for the society in the US to recover from this satire fallout?
Great question, and it's hard to predict, but I mean, for me, there's kind of no turning back from this. Look, I can only speak for myself. I don't really see myself writing satire ever again. I was already turning against it just due to personal preference, but then when this reality star cartoon character villain became the leader of the free world, that was the final push I needed to divorce myself from satire. It just really seems pointless. I mean, let me give you a parallel. Like these Marvel comic movies, I actually quite like them. They're entertaining. They're actually well done. It's something my little boy and I can enjoy together. That being said, I cringe when like New York City is attacked and these skyscrapers are falling. My point being, this did actually happen in 2001. It became a reality. Why recreate it? What could be more emotionally palpable than what actually happened?
Absolutely.
And I don't know. It just seems a tad bit tasteless, as enjoyable as the films are. And so I feel the same way about satire. You know, why it happened in The Simpsons, guys, you know, a satirical show. The Simpsons had Donald Trump become president, you know.
But they somehow predict everything, so...
Right. It's not so funny when it actually happens,
Exactly.
It's not.
Exactly.
And we can see this also in cartoonist shows like South Park. They are, in satire ways, a bit more diffuse or a bit more rejected than normally they would have been before the presidency.
Yeah, I'm not sure I follow you on that question, but maybe because I don't watch South Park. But
That might be a reason.
Okay.
So, back to something you said before. You talked about the lonely people who somehow try to find fulfillment in your book. So, do you think it's even possible for mankind to find this kind of fulfillment in their lives, or are we somehow forced or just destined to suffer?
You know, from my point of view, it seems like everybody else does just fine. You know,
Everyone thinks, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. But I don't know. From my point of view, it's like everybody just finds each other, and I always I don't know. All my life, I've just felt like the wallflower on the edge of the room, watching everybody else be happy, and I've come to accept that. So I didn't adequately answer your question, though, did I?
Well, it's a bit around the corners, isn't it? 'Cause I think what you said is quite right, because I think everyone feels like that, watching the others being happy.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks everyone's somehow doing fine. And as soon as you get to talk to the people, everyone seems to have this kind of suffering and loneliness in them. So maybe it's watching the others what's making us kind of unfulfilled.
Exactly. And then this whole social media thing doesn't help, where
they're pushing up the hopes. And the overall.
They're presenting.
Your expectations about how your life has to be. And that's what's downgrading your own life. So you always have this kind of missing fulfillment.
Yeah. Well, I'm relieved to hear that other people feel this way, and I always suspected that. Yeah, everybody is carrying his or her own burden. And
absolutely,
sure is. In your book, lots of characters have dropped out of, let's so call it, mainstream social life and tend to have a more diverse attitude towards society. How far is that rebellious mindset still implemented in your personal, private thoughts?
Oh gosh, I mean, I'm getting a little bit older now, so maybe I've mellowed out with age, and I'm a teacher now, and the strangest thing that's happened, I have become an authority figure, and so I'm starting to see the world from different perspectives with that in mind. But on day one, I remind them, guys, authority is not grounded in wisdom, so don't you ever think that I actually know what I'm talking about. But I would say my most rebellious days are behind me, and I don't know. I mean, I think nowadays, when you look at mainstream culture, the most successful way to rebel is to reduce yourself to bedroom isolation. In other words, just behave yourself. stay like I do. To me, the ultimate Friday or Saturday night is alone in my bedroom reading a book. You know, to me, that's true nonconformity nowadays. That is true rebellion.
Yeah, as we said before, with social media, everyone presenting themselves and feeling the urge to present themselves. Probably it is one way to just distance yourself from the expectations of society. Right.
Yeah, man, I have mixed feelings about Facebook because it is a quite easy way to connect with people. It makes the world smaller and closer. But oftentimes I find it quite depressing to see all these smiling, happy people. And I want to see what happens once the cameras are put away.
That's the interesting part you can write in your books about.
Yeah.
We love to read it.
Yeah.
So, as we said before, your biggest fan base seems to be in Germany, Switzerland, Austria, all the German-speaking areas.
Yes.
How would you explain yourself why your books are so well received in Germany and all that German? Do you think there's some kind of mentality that's different from the American to the German way?
You know, first of all, I don't know for certain. I have some theories. I mean, one way I like to look at it is from just a practical point of view. And the practical point of view is that I have a superior publisher over here in Diogenes Verlag, you know. When you're in a bookstore and you see that book cover with the white border, you know it's going to be a quality book, you know. And so that's, I would credit my publisher over here with connecting me with an audience. So, I mean, I think that's an important part of it. But yeah, I mean, another explanation is mathematical. The numbers... the number of readers over here is so much greater. I witness this every night on my reading tour, you know? I mean, I would never have thought that it would be like this. Well, I mean, I couldn't have a reading tour at all in America. I did a little reading tour of Kentucky and you know, nobody showed up. And so here I am over here, and please don't think I'm bragging, but just to illustrate my point, the last 2 readings were sold out. You know, my point is, from my point of view, reading and especially literary fiction seems to be alive and well here, not so much in America, you know.
That's true.
So there's a cultural thing. And then there's a theory. Well, you can tell by my last name, I have German ancestry, and everybody in my family has their children late in life. And so my point is, the German in my blood has not been that diluted in America. I'm still very much a German myself. So perhaps on a genetic level, there's some kind of connection.
Some connection there, absolutely.
And then finally, I got a letter from a reader, and she came up with an explanation for my success in Germany that I'd never heard. She said that my style of comedy somehow matches perfectly with Germanic sentence structure. And I do not know enough about your language, even though I studied it for 2 years, to explain this. But she seemed to make sense of it. She said somehow, like, the way the punchlines are... Comedy is an important part of my writing, as sad as my books are. And she said the way that your sentences are structured, it enhances the comic effect.
That's true. It actually is. So.
Quite a good point.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What can we expect in the near future? As the last question. For
a children's book called Timmy the Talking Toilet.
throwing glances at Tim in the corner.
I'm gonna work on a new novel. I'm not exactly sure what form it will take, but it won't be another short story collection. It will be a proper novel, and I assure you, in true Joey Goebel fashion, it will be equally funny and sad. You will laugh, you will cry, you will vomit.
As we like it.
That's a great slogan. You should put that just right on the book cover.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
It was an absolute pleasure for us to talk to you. That was so great to meet you.
Thank you. I enjoyed your questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. It was a very pleasure. I just can't repeat what my colleague said before. And
yes,
thank you very much.
Well, we wish you all the best for the coming tour. And
thank you. And just to allow you to hear a Kentuckian's version of German, vielen Dank, y'all.